Zoom, so if you've got any question, feel free to just come and share your name, share where you're from, and share your question. Yes, kids get to go first. Okay, so starting with one that has come to us from our online audience. What is the true meaning of life? Is it to have every possible material luxury? Or is having a calm mind with just enough? Purpose of life is neither. Purpose of life actually has nothing to do with what you have and everything to do with what you know. The purpose of life is to know who we are, to experience the divine connection, that fullness, that awakening, that union, that oneness, that truth of ourself. That's why we're here. It's not about whether I have a lot, whether I have a little, whether I have a good job, a mediocre job, a not so good job. It's not about being rich or poor. Sometimes people think, well, gotta make a lot, gotta have a lot, then I'll be happy. The other side says, can't have anything because to have anything is not spiritual. Both sides are stuck because both sides have given the power of their lives over to money, the presence of it or the absence of it. But money has nothing to do with it. There are beautiful stories, scriptural stories, historical stories of enlightened beings who were, for example, in the case of Bhagavan Krishna, a king of a city made of gold. Clearly the money's not the problem. But then we have stories of Ravan, also king of a city made of gold. So the gold neither made Dwarka heaven nor made Lanka hell. It all has to do with who's running the show. Are you being run by the divine or are you being run by that? I don't like the word demonic. It sounds very much like you've been possessed by something outside of yourself. But it isn't outside of ourself. It's that lower nature of the self, the desires, the ego, the lust, the greed, the ignorance. There's stories of so many incredible beings. Some King Janak, another king, became a master. And then rishis, sages, sadhus, with nothing, enlightened. So we've got the entire spectrum on a financial and success level. And again, spanning the spectrum of enlightened to miserable. Awake, stuck. Money has nothing to do with it. The purpose of life is to know who you are. Now, the dilemma with having lots and lots of material possessions is that we tend to stay focused on them. But yeah, it's good. Thank you. We tend to stay focused on them. If we are just in the mood, just focused on earning more, getting more, having more, it's going to be very hard to also stay focused on our spiritual path. So it's not the possessions that are the problem. It's my focus. Should the possessions simply arrive as I'm in the flow of living in flow, no problem. But if I've dedicated my life to just making money so that I can have things, well, you can be pretty sure I'm not dedicating myself to my spiritual practices, which means that those material possessions are going to block me from that deep joy, from that deep peace, from that truth. But it's much subtler than that it's the problem with the possessions. It's my focus. And similarly on the other side, I could have nothing and be quite content with that. Have enough, have a bed to sleep in or a mat on the floor to sleep on, have enough food so that I'm nourished, have a roof over my head, have enough clothes so that I'm not cold in the winter time, and it's enough. But if I'm poor and I'm thinking it's not fair that I'm poor, I hate those people who are rich, they're never gonna, be spiritual. Well, then the poverty has made you stuck. So the wealth can make us stuck, the poverty can make us stuck, if we are identifying with it. So purpose of life, recognize who you are, spend the time, energy, focus, attention on our spiritual practices. Sometimes our karmic journey is to be very well rewarded in a material sense for the work that we do. We have a job, it pays well, we get lots of raises and promotions, or we are that, entrepreneur who invents something and it becomes a success. But a lot of us have karmic journeys that are not nearly so lucrative. Artists, musicians, teachers, so many sorts, so many of us. And each of us is here fulfilling our karmic journey. If the journey is one that's meant to attract financial wealth, it'll do that. If you play that role sincerely, you will attract that wealth. Other journeys, play it sincerely. Wealth isn't going to come, but a lot of personal satisfaction will. So don't judge it based on the possessions. Judge it by your state of presence, of awareness, of consciousness, of inner joy, of peace. Because if you feel like you're lacking something, you're poor. If you feel like you have everything, you're rich. I'll never forget when I first came to India, first came to Rishikesh. One of the things that struck me so deeply right in the beginning was poverty. Rishikesh was a lot different 30 years ago than it is today. But lots and lots and lots of people, the vast majority of them, lived far below the Western standards of poverty that I was used to. But not one of them self-identified as poor. I could look at them and say, these are poor people. I could label them. In my mind, coming from LA, 7, 8 people living in one room counts as poor. 1 bed, 8 people, it's below the poverty line. Kitchen in the same room. But in their mind, नहीं, हम गरीब नहीं है, वो लोग गरीब है, हम गरीब नहीं है. We're not poor. Maybe those people over there are poor, but we're not poor. 7 people in a bed, great. Warmer and cozier. And it struck me so deeply because I had grown up around people who had everything. All the wealth, big mansions, but who were miserable. And to be surrounded by people who, on a material level, seemed to have nothing, but were so happy, struck me very, very deeply. But then, of course, we also have the flip side. You have people who are poor and angry about it and bitter. And they certainly have every right to be when, the way that our society works keeps them poor. But bitterness is never going to be enlightened. Neither is selfish or hoarding or grabbing. So stay focused on who I am, not what I have, and that's the path. Then whatever we're meant to have, you'll have. Beautiful. Other questions? Yes, please. Come, you can just come to the microphone. Up यहीं आइएगा. नमस्कार.
आत्मज्ञान के लिए अपनी चेतना को उठाना पड़ता है, तभी आत्मज्ञान मिलता है. और अपनी चेतना को उठाने के लिए क्या करना चाहिए?
Okay.
कोई गुरु तो होना चाहिए.
Okay. In order to have the wisdom, the truth of myself, the awakening, the enlightenment, the moksha, the truth, we need to have an expanded consciousness. That's why we talk about doing things that help us to expand our consciousness. What do we need for that? Do we need a guru? Do we need other things? In theory, all we need is to go within. Because we are going to inner space, not outer space. If you want to go to outer space, first you need a mathematics professor. Then you need a science professor. Then you need a physics professor. Then you need to be in physics lab and chem lab and bio lab, and you need to get all kinds of degrees. Then you need to have somebody teach and train you for what it's going to be like to go into outer space. You've got to do all kinds of trainings and learning things. And you need people to teach you. Here's how you live in zero gravity. Here's what you do. But to go to inner space, in theory, किसी का आवश्यक नहीं होना चाहिए. We should not need anyone because we are going only into who we are. I should be enough. However, that's just in theory. In practice, it doesn't actually work like that. And the reason is that there is this huge curtain between my conscious mind and my inner self. And it's a curtain that keeps my inner self blocked. And every time I get close, there's a guy going, "Oh, it's over there," sending me in the opposite direction, with lots of lights and shiny arrows pointing me away from my inner self. Get back on Amazon.com, go shopping, go drinking, make some more money, see a movie. Every time I get close to the inner self, the guards of that curtain are sending me into other directions. The guards of that curtain are my ego, my ignorance, my fear, my desires, my patterns, my stories. So in order to be able to make my way through those guards, to be able to pull back the curtain and actually see, yeah, most of us need a guru. Because every time we get close, those guards that we don't realize are the ego that point us this way, that way, here, down, we believe them, we follow them, and we get lost. Or, even if we know it's the ego, we see that curtain and we think, uske piche kuch hai nahi. We think that is who I am. We see the ego, we say, oh, that's me. We see the fears, we say, that's me. We see the stories, the narratives, we say, oh, that's me. What the Guru does is shows you, walks you by the hand with the light back toward the curtain. And these guards don't even have the courage to say anything in front of the Guru. And if they do, the Guru just laughs them off. And then shows you how to pull back the curtain. So, yeah, most of us need that Guru. There are stories, of course, throughout history of mystics, sages, enlightened masters who just apne aap ho jate hain. But that's like a 1 in a million situation. And most of us are the 999,000 in the million. So having a guru gives you much, much better odds. And what I've seen in my life, and I've seen it in the life of everyone I know, is where there's the guru, we find the path. Where there isn't the guru, where we think we don't need the guru, either we end up totally lost, miserable, scared, alone, dejected, or we end up so wrapped up in our own egos that we think we've reached somewhere, and all we're doing is running around here and there with the ego pointing us like that. So yeah, the Guru is, I have found, of very, very, very deep importance. Beautiful. Yes, of course.
Pranam Sadhviji, and from the past 3 or 4 weeks, whatever questions are happening inside me, I could see somewhere it comes, and you address it so very well. In fact, today also I had the similar discussion with somebody about a guru, and I was guided saying that there is no password, there is no key to attain, the upper level of, enlightenment. Everything is within us. Go deeper and find out. Whatever I have studied, because there are certain complex kriyas or there are certain, asanas which actually help you focus more, go deeper, and is always been forbidden not to do unless you have a guru. And I could see a slight contradiction to what I heard, which you very nicely addressed today. I'm also aware that getting a guru is a blessing, which you again addressed today, saying that could be 0.001%. If you are blessed enough, you may get a guru. My simple question is, and I've also been given to understand that it is not you who choose a guru. Guru finds you. How to go on a path wherein you get recognized and you've been picked up.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
So, first of all, you're absolutely right. There are beautiful yogic practices, asanas, pranayam, different kriyas. Meditation, of course, is also a yogic practice that bring us into a state of mind in which we are open and we are able to receive. And it's why any good guru is going to not say to you, oh, you don't need asanas, you don't need meditation, you don't need pranayam, just I am your only necessary magic wand. A good guru is also going to hand you a sadhana. Do meditation, do pranayam, do yoga, do prayer, do seva. All of these things work to purify. They purify our mind, they purify our thoughts. The reason that the guru is so necessary, and then we'll come to how, even when you have those practices, is the ego still comes in. And the ego comes in telling us things about ourselves. And sadly, a lot of times, those who do even more of the yogic practices, if they're not under the guidance of a guru, can get even more swept up in the ego. Because then you've got a practice to back you up. And they're like, oh yeah, I'm the one of this yoga or this meditation or these kriyas, and I know, and our ego just runs away with us. The guru is the one who quite literally, I think about it a lot like a lump of clay on a potter's wheel. Having a real guru is not easy. There was a book I read many, many years ago. I'm trying to remember who wrote it. I cannot at the moment remember who wrote it. But it had such a powerful introduction. It was talking about how most of us want basically a guru who's just going to butter us up and tell us, oh, you're wonderful, whatever you're doing is wonderful. And how few of us really want a guru who's going to give us the hard truth. But how that's what's needed. And how throughout history that's what the gurus did. But recently, over the last, few decades, where we have now so many gurus to choose from with access through ease of travel, ease of access, TV, now internet, all over the place. How we can find someone who will basically just butter us up and tell us that whatever we're doing is great. They'll give us a label tantra to label our promiscuity. They'll give us a label of this to label that. They can take patterns and habits that we have that really need to be worked with because they're holding us back, and they'll simply give us words that are meant to refer to teachings and practices that are much deeper and much more powerful. But they'll give them to us to kind of label our ego-filled, dysfunctional habits and addictions and tendencies and justifications and rationalizations. Because what we want is to be buttered up. So the reason that the guru is so necessary and the reason that a real guru is so necessary is otherwise our egos just run away with us. But I think about it like being a lump of clay on a potter's wheel. That's how it has felt to me in any case, is you literally spin around, you get metaphorically slapped. Swamiji's guru actually literally slapped him. He just slaps us metaphorically. But his guru actually whacked him. But you get, whether literally or metaphorically, you get whacked. And then when you think you just can't take it anymore, you get thrown into the fire and burned. But at the end of the day, you turn around and you look at yourself and you're like, oh my God, I've become useful. I'm a cup, I'm a vase, I'm a, teapot, I'm a whatever's been a bowl, whatever's been made. I've been turned into this nimit, this instrument that can now be used in the hands of the divine for whatever is meant to flow through it, to flow. But you got to go through that process. And so you see a lot of guru shopping these days. And we shop because what we want is someone who's going to, oh, it's okay, you're perfect just the way you are, And we don't want to do the work to actually have to change. That all being said, in terms of making yourself ready, a huge step has to be ready to be thrown on the potter's wheel, a recognition. In the 12-step programs of addiction recovery, one of the core fundamental premises is you can only actually start to become free of addiction when you hit bottom. Only when you hit bottom are you then able to become free, because then do you realize what I'm doing doesn't work? I've hit bottom. I need something else. And even if we're not addicted to a substance, alcohol, drugs, gambling, whatever it may be, we're addicted to our egos. We're addicted to our own ways of thinking. We're addicted to our narratives, our stories, our justifications, all of that. And only when we realize, oh my God, this isn't working for me, we hit that spiritual bottom, that we finally realize, oh my God, okay. Like, I'm ready. Show me the way. Free from what my own mind is doing to me. So that readiness is key. And then the last piece is, the guru will find you. But what the guru is not going to do is force you to see them. A lot of times people ask, how do I know if a guru is the right guru? And tragically, I always say, there isn't an equation. I wish I could give you this equation that says, well, if X plus 4Y equals Z, then it's the right guru. But there isn't an equation. However, I can tell you how to know if it's not the right guru. And the way that we know it's not the right guru is because they're the ones who keep trying to convince us they are the right guru. The real guru is there shining light, there for us, but perfectly patient. If not this life, next life, it's okay. The universe is patient. Anybody who's going to run you down the street and try to convince you they are your guru, they are more wise, more enlightened, more smart, more powerful than the others, run as fast as you can in the other direction. So the guru will appear, but you've got to be prepared to have your eyes open and to say, oh yeah, okay, even though maybe you don't butter me up, even though, maybe you look different than I thought, or you act different than, whatever it may be. Oh yeah, you're the one I've been sent. And not letting the ego get in the way, looking for someone who's just gonna, pat us on the head and let us go on about our merry ways with a spiritual stamp of approval. Yeah, beautiful. Of course.
My question still remains same. How to get a guru?
How to get a guru? Well, it's exactly as we've been saying. Make yourself ready. Yeah. As you said, people say the guru will appear. It's absolutely true. Make yourself ready. And you will find, when you listen to that inner voice, that inner intuition, you'll find yourself in a place where you discover, oh, look, I've been brought to the feet of the guru. And until then, until you feel like that's happened, there's so much wisdom that we can get, thankfully. It's one of the great aspects of the gift of technology, whether it's through books, whether it's through videos, whether it's through auditory lectures. We have the ability now to actually take in such knowledge from so many enlightened masters. So make it a process of readying yourself with faith that the divine is going to put you in exactly the right place to find, to meet, to discover exactly the right guru for you. As long as your eyes are open and your mind, your thoughts, your heart are open and purified and sincere. And until then, Just soak up as much wisdom as you possibly can from as many ways as you possibly can. Beautiful. Yes. Yes.
So my question is like, we do believe that in Sanatan Dharam that we have a same soul, like the soul doesn't live. So the point is, how do we know that what mistakes or bad things we have done in the past life? At times we do often think that why does this thing happen to me? I am not doing anything bad. So is there some way like we can get to know or some way to rectify those mistakes?
Great. Yes. I was just going to say, ask how rather than why. Meaning, rather than wondering about what mistake did I make, ask instead, how do I rectify this? Because exactly what it is, you can't rewind life anyway.
Definitely.
Then it becomes just sort of trivia almost. Oh, it was that. Okay. I mean, you know it was something that planted seeds of harm. How did you plant a seed of harm? It doesn't really matter. What matters is now you are in a challenging situation due to past karmic choices. How do you now plant new seeds? The first and most important way is to actually learn the lesson of the situation you're in. Because the law of karma is not about rewards and punishments. It's not just, oh, you did that, so now you spend 2 years in jail. And after 2 years are over, whether you've learned something or not learned anything, changed, not changed, you've paid your dues, you're out. Karma's not like that. It comes to us as lessons that we are meant to learn. Experiences that we are meant to have because of the lessons that those experiences give us. So, okay, you're in a challenging situation. What lesson is there for you? What way is that challenging situation the exact perfect situation for you to take your next step on your spiritual evolution? Ask yourself that. Because that is why every single one of us is in the situations we are in. Because in that situation, I am meant to take my next step. And we have a choice. We can either sit and wallow in it, complaining about it, telling other people about it, telling ourselves stories about it, or we can learn the lesson and move on. So first ask yourself, what am I meant to learn here? And then, how do I plant new seeds? It sounds like you're living a life that is, as you said, I'm not doing any wrong things. Great. So what are you doing that's planting seeds for a happier, healthier, more harmonious future? And one of the easiest ways is, what are you doing for others? How are you using what you have and who you are to contribute back to this planet? Because there's two types of sins. Sins of commission, meaning a sin I have committed. I've hit somebody, I've murdered somebody, I've stolen something, I've committed adultery, I've yelled at somebody, I've done something specific. I've committed a sin. But then there are also sins of omission. Not things we've done, but things we should have done that we didn't do. And we get karmic repercussion for acts of commission and also acts of omission. If somebody falls down on the street in front of me and I don't bend down to help them up, that's an action. This is what Bhagavan Krishna makes so clear in the Bhagavad Gita when Arjuna says, well, forget it, then I'm not going to act anymore at all. I won't do bad things and I also won't do good things. Because if every action is going to give me a karmic fruit, well then I don't want a karmic fruit. I'm just not going to act. And Bhagavan Krishna says you can't help but act. Everything is an action. Even you sit there, plug your ears, close your eyes, sit on your hands, you're still acting. Because not doing your dharma, an act of omission, is just as much an act as an act of commission. So not doing something that I should do is also accruing karmic debt. If I've been given money, for example, and I'm not using it to help others, that's an act of omission. It acquires karmic fruit. If I've been given a healthy body, skills, abilities, talents, opportunities, and I'm not using them with sincerity to show up and serve, that is an act of omission, and there are karmic consequences for it. So when you're wondering about situations you're in, it's really important to look not just at what have I done, but what haven't I done? And what am I not doing? What am I not doing that I should be doing? And it might be something external, service. It might be something internal. Forgiveness of someone who's harmed you. Meditation to understand the truth of who you are. Prayer to express to God how much you love God. But have a good look at those acts of omission and see whether maybe you're not doing something wrong, but maybe you're omitting something from your life that's creating challenging situations. But let your focus be now on how to learn the lesson I meant to learn and how to plant seeds for tomorrow, rather than worrying about past life trivia. Okay? Great.
Thank you, and you
Of
explained
course.
it really well. I really like it. Thank you.
Have a beautiful rest of your evening, everyone. A beautiful morning and daytime to our family joining us online from all over the world. And I look so forward to seeing all of you tomorrow. And so much love to you all.